Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is your Manchester United versus Leeds United preview, but of course it's the flip side. It's at Ellen Road. We drew 2-2 at Old Trafford on Wednesday night. We must go there again and play Leeds at Ellen Road on Sunday afternoon at 2 o'clock. So how do we prepare for this game? Look, there's a lot of if, buts and maybes. I want to get into the lineup, of course. But first of all, I just want to hit it straight on and say that I think this is going to be a difficult game. You look at Leeds' home record, I think they've pretty much spread win, losses and draws. And our away record's pretty much like that as well. I think we've won more than we've lost. I think we've won 5, drawn 2 and lost 4. So this to me has got a draw written all over it. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was a draw, because I just think where we're at the moment, we've always got a good performance in us, and Erik ten Hag has always got a tactical plan and a capability of winning games, and we've shown that. And I wouldn't be surprised if we did win. What I'm trying to do is build up the fact that if we did win, it would be a very impressive result. People will look at the league table and they'll go, well, Leeds are down the bottom and we're up near the top, and we'll get into that in a minute about where we are in the league and what we're looking at, because I think we've got to look behind us as much as we've got to try and aspire to go up. But look, the enormity of Leeds against Manchester United at Ellen Road has to be hit head on as well. This is the War of the Roses. This is Leeds' biggest game. Some Man United fans, or certainly some younger Man United fans, don't realise that this is a massive rivalry, certainly from the Leeds side. Obviously, in recent years, Leeds haven't been in the Premier League, and Liverpool's a bigger game, and Man City. But Leeds, Man United at Ellen Road is their biggest game of the season. So whether we acknowledge them as a major rival or not, you'd be a fool to ignore the enormity of the game for Leeds, and how this is the game that when the fixtures come out, they're looking at that. When a Man United playing Leeds at Ellen Road, this is the game they want to be at. This is the game where the crowd are going to be up for it. And this is therefore the game where the players are going to be up for it. And I think Leeds have already shown this week at Old Trafford that they're up for it. Like their energy levels were really, really good. They always look to play football in a sense of, quick movement. They're not afraid to go man for man. And I think at Ellen Road, that they're not going to be, to use the flower term again, they're not going to be shrinking violets in the War of the Roses. They're going to go for us. They're going to react to the crowd. They're going to be spurred on by the crowd. They're going to try and motivate the crowd. So at a time where Man United are playing relentless amounts of games, we've got another 3 or 4 weeks of playing 3 games a week. We've already had 7 weeks of it. A game away to Leeds, when we're probably a little bit disappointed about, not winning on Wednesday night, and we're looking to the Barcelona game, a game against Leeds where it's going to be high intensity, high energy, high passion, is probably not the perfect sort of game United would want at the moment, when you think about, the fatigue that will naturally be there and the injuries that we've got and the lack of options we've got in certain places. Of course, Casemiro misses this game as well. So it's going to be a tough game. And I hope some of what I've just said there sort of brings that together, that it will be a really difficult game in the circumstances. But of course, when the whistle blows, we could be 2 or 3-0 up at half time and we cruise through it, because that's football, and you never know what Ten Hag's got in mind, and you never know, maybe Leeds play up to their relegation form. But they don't have Jesse Marsch. There is that new or non-manager bounce, whatever you want to call it. And our midfield has been a bit vulnerable. And I think I'm a firm believer that most games are won and lost in the midfield, and the reason we never really won on Wednesday night was because we didn't really grab the midfield like we would do if Casemiro was there. I think if Casemiro played on Wednesday night, we would have won. I think if Casemiro had played at the Emirates, we wouldn't have lost. So he is our best player. I know Rashford's been brilliant. I think Bruno's been brilliant. I think the defence has been superb. But Casemiro is the most important player in that team. He is the leader. He is the constructor. He is the organiser. He is the protector. He is the soul of that team, and you take him out of that team and it's a loss. And the thing is, not only is it a loss, we don't even have somebody who can play his position. So it's an even bigger loss. And Leeds midfield, whatever you think about it, I certainly think with the 2 lads who play for America, McKennie and Adams, they've played together for a long time. I know McKennie's only just come in, but they certainly looked against Man United like they know what they're doing. And I'd be very surprised if Leeds go down, really, if they can keep those 2 playing together a lot, because it gives them a lot of energy. Like I said, it gives them a lot of tenacity, and it gives them the platform to go and win midfield battles. So look, I'm not going to sit here and say, I will take a point before the game's even started. That's not the way you need to go into any game. But I do think that if we come out with the point on Sunday night, it might not be a bad result. we currently in the league, and I'm not going to look above because Man City and Arsenal have got their own battle going on, and if we win our next 4 Premier League games and we've got to play Leeds away, Leicester away, Leeds away, Leicester at home, Liverpool away, and I forget what the 4th game is. If we win our next 4 and Arsenal and Man City conspire to drop points, then maybe you can start talking about that again. But I'd rather not talk about title talk because every time we do, we tend to drop points. What we've got to look at is where we are at the moment. We're 3rd in the league. We're 4 points ahead of Spurs, and I think we're 3 points or 2 points ahead of Newcastle, and they've got a game in hand. So if we continue to start dropping points and Spurs and Newcastle win, we will find ourselves in the position we don't want to be in, which is a 3-horse race for 2 spots. Yes, I'm not disrespecting Brentford, Brighton, Fulham. I mean, I don't think Liverpool and Chelsea can get back into it, but at the moment, there could be 3 teams, Spurs, Man United and Newcastle, fighting for 2 spots. And as much as I think Man United are the better team out of those 3, we're not the better team if we get tired and we keep picking up injuries. So we don't want to get pulled into that. But in the grand scheme of things, it's more important to stay undefeated than to, go gung-ho at Ellen Road and get beat. And I am predicting a draw in this. I'm actually predicting a 1-1 draw, but I do think it's going to be difficult, and I do think that we're going to have to pull something special out to get a result, because for Leeds, they ain't got Barcelona on Thursday, they ain't got a cup final the week after. Leeds' season is all about staying up, and they're going to be hungry to do that, and they're going to want to do that by beating Manchester United at Ellen Road. So the hunger is going to be there, and we've seen what happened when United are off it a little bit when we lost to Villa against a team that's up for it. So, and the crowd is up for it. So we've got to be, like Ten Hag says, it's unacceptable to start both halves like we did at Old Trafford and give a goal up in both first 5 minutes of both halves. I think the way that we combat this, and look, the team, who knows who's going to be injured? Who knows who's injured but will be back? I don't know. I know what Ten Hag has said in the press conference, but you just don't know. So I've sort of gone with what I'd been thinking about. This is the team I would have played straight after. I wrote this team down straight after we drew on Wednesday night. So, of course, some people might not be fit, some people might be back and available, but I'm showing you this team because this is the team I wrote down straight away. And the reason I wrote it down is, look, the back 5 takes care of itself. There is a bit of a debate about whether Dalot or Wan-Bissaka should play. I completely agree that Wan-Bissaka, if he's fit, is probably fitter than Dalot at the moment, who looked rusty against Leeds. Having said that, we want to score goals, and Dalot provided the cross for Rashford, and Dalot is better going forward. Are we going to Leeds to defend, or are we going to Leeds to try and score goals? And I think you don't go to Leeds and defend, because that's the whole point of Leeds. You don't defend at Leeds. You have an open game of football, and you see who comes out on top. And I think we need our fullbacks to be creators, and Dalot gives that. So I would go with Dalot, but if it's Wan-Bissaka, I don't have a problem. The midfield is where it's all at. Look, against Leeds at Old Trafford, we played like we did. We sort of did what Ollie did. We went with McTominay and Fred, but this time it was Fred and Sabitzer. We played a midfield too, and they basically shared the role. One went forward, one went back, one was right, one was left. It was a midfield too. We've done it before, we've seen teams do it before, some teams still do it, and Ten Hag did that. When Casemiro's fit, we don't do that. Casemiro sits, he drops in between the centre-backs, he makes runs beyond Fred or Eriksen. It's a 4-3-3, but it's one holding midfielder, it's one box-to-box, and it's Bruno with more attacking licence. That's how it's staggered. It's like it is on the screen there. But we didn't play like that against Leeds at Old Trafford because we went with Sabitzer and Fred, and we sort of said players are 2. I would go back to the way the team knows how to play. Now, Casemiro can't play, so the question is, who are you going to make play the holding midfielder? And I don't think Sabitzer or Fred can do that. I think it's a big ask defensively. So I'd play Lindelof. I would give Lindelof a go. Lindelof's not going to make runs into the box that Casemiro does to score goals. He's probably not going to hit the sort of passes that Rashford's benefited from Casemiro, but he can certainly drop into him in between the 2 centre-backs. He can certainly take the ball off the centre-backs, and he's certainly defensive and combative because he's a centre-back. He can go and win headers, he can go and win tackles. I would try it because I think Sabitzer and Fred were really uncomfortable with how they had to play on Wednesday. And whilst I think Sabitzer had a reasonable game, Fred had a really bad game. So I think let's stick to what the team knows. Let's have a defined centre defensive midfielder. And obviously we don't have Casemiro. I think it would be a major risk to throw McTominay back in, even if he was fit. And I actually think Lindelof would do the job better anyway. So I would go with the CDM and I would go with Lindelof. Now, of course, you could try Martinez there and you could put Luke Shaw at left centre-back and you could put Malacia there. And I wouldn't rule that out. If you're saying that in the chat, I wouldn't rule that out. There's a real reason why you might put Martinez at CDM and play Luke Shaw at left centre-back and put Malacia at left-back. And that's because we're playing Barcelona on Thursday and Martinez is suspended. So I think that could be a clever idea, but I'd certainly be putting Lindelof or Martinez at CDM rather than going for the midfield two again, because it didn't really work against Leeds, and I think let's stick to what we know. But there is a theory that you could put Martinez CDM, Luke Shaw left centre-back and Malacia at left-back just to give them a game ahead of the away trip to Barcelona. And there's a lot of sense in that. There is a lot of sense in playing that four together ahead of the Barcelona game so they have a bit of rhythm. What he might do is he might drop Martinez completely and play that back four. But yeah, you could definitely put Martinez at CDM as well. I'd play Sabitzer in the Eriksen role, as we call it. I thought Fred was atrocious against Leeds, and whilst Fred could go and have a worldie at Ellen Road, again, let's try and play with a bit of familiarity. And I think Sabitzer can play the Eriksen role, and I'd like to see him play in that role. And obviously Bruno's got to play. Front three. WEGHORST needs to be dropped. I like WEGHORST. I think he's a really honest, hard-working player, but we don't play to his strengths. And there's absolutely no doubt that when you don't play to a player's strengths, you take him off and you play better. And we play better without WEGHORST in the team. I think he's come in and given us an option, which we needed. But we're very different with WEGHORST than we are with Martial. And we're very different when we put Rashford through the middle than we are with WEGHORST. So I think that WEGHORST is we're almost playing with 10 men. Not because he's bad, but we're not utilising him. He's not quick. He is trying to press from the front, but we're not utilising his strengths, which is, getting quick balls into the box. He's a penalty box striker. So I think away to Leeds, let's be energetic, let's be fast, let's go with the front six that can press with speed. And more importantly, we're away from home. Let's make Leeds think. Let's be able to break quick. We can't break quick with WEGHORST. You can't. So I think Rashford up front, Sancho to the left, Anthony to the right is the best front three we can pick. And if that is possible, I would do that. Now, obviously, Anthony's fitness could be an issue. If that is the case, even Sancho's fitness could be an issue. It was only before the game on Wednesday that Ten Hag said that Sancho wasn't fit enough to play 90 minutes because he's still gradually coming back. So it may not be desirable for Ten Hag to start Sancho, but I think you've got to. The alternatives, with no Martial about, Anthony's potential issues, I think you've got to play Jadon Sancho. However, you have got Pellistri, Elanga and Garnacho. Now, if Anthony can't play or Sancho can't play, then I'm still going to bring Garnacho in. I don't get the criticism. I'm still going to use him. It's all about development. It's all about trust. I don't think he played particularly badly against Leeds the other night. I don't. And I think people are forgetting the 3 points at Fulham and some of the performances he's put in for us this season. So I'd be more than happy to start Garnacho. I think it'd be a push to start Elanga. I don't know what's gone wrong with Elanga this season. He seems to be down the pecking order behind Pellistri and Garnacho at the moment. But that is an option if you want to just go for raw pace. Does Pellistri really suit us if we've got Rashford through the middle? But there are options, and I'd trust Ten Hag on whatever he does there. If we can't play that front three of Sancho, Anthony and Rashford for whatever reason, maybe there's fitness problems about starting them, I don't know. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting how he lines up because there's so many permutations. You could just move Martinez out and put Shaw there preparing for the Barcelona game. You can definitely play Lindelof or Martinez at CDM and then just go back to something that's familiar. Do you think he'll leave Fred out? I probably don't. And then if he's going to play Fred's, are we just going to go with the same midfield that we tried on Wednesday night? But ultimately, across all of it, it's going to be a very competitive and difficult away game. And I think we need to get out of this mindset that we're just going to keep winning and winning and winning. We are in a very, very challenging time in relation to the amount of games we're playing. And also, we're in a very challenging time that we're missing, really key players in key areas. predominantly Casemiro, but also I think, you know, Martial's injury is starting to hurt us because WEGHORST hasn't actually been the, you know, even partial success that we would have hoped. So there are challenges for this team at the moment, and I think Leeds, it's not a free hit for Leeds. It's not like they're going to play without pressure, and that might make them better. I think maybe they did that at Old Trafford. I think for this game, they're going to be absolutely revved up to 90. They're going to be absolutely on it, and that's not necessarily what Man United want in a game when they're, you know, playing so many games and so many games to come, and we're a little bit thin in certain areas. You don't want to be going somewhere where the crowd's at you and the players are after you, and, you know, the referee's maybe a bit of a home banker. It's got a lot of ingredients to be a really tough game, and that makes it exciting. Of course, the bigger the challenge, the better the game, in my opinion, and you find out more about your players in them situations. So I think it's going to be a big challenge. I'd love it if we went there and breezed past them 2 or 3-0. And I do think Rashford down the middle, if we're intelligent, we might be able to expose their back four a few times if we can move the ball quickly from back to front. I'd certainly fancy Rashford to score on Sunday, which is, you know, it's a bit like saying I expect Sunday to come after Saturday, but there is a way that we can exploit Leeds with quick counters, especially when they're at home. But yeah, I'm going to go with a draw. On the other hand, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like a ridiculous 4-3 or something like that. It could have loads of goals in it. But the one thing I haven't spoken about, and I think we need to speak about, is that back five. Our whole season was rebuilt after Brentford and Brighton on that back five, and it has been predominantly very, very good this season. The nature of the goals on Wednesday were really surprising, because although there's nothing you can really do about it, we were just a bit lethargic in the first few minutes. So we need to have a strong defence. You've got to be looking at clean sheets in a game like this, because that gives you the platform to get a result. And as I said, a win would be absolutely fantastic. It would just, you know, you can't lose. The gap can't be closed on you from Spurs and Newcastle if you win. So a win would be a fantastic result. But I think it might be a situation where if we did get a draw, we might look at it and go, in the circumstances, that's not too bad a result. But I'm excited about it. Leeds against Manchester United at Ellen Road. You know it's going to be passionate. You know it's going to be tasty. And we've got to get something out of it. Thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. Get your comments in below. There's so many permutations about how you would line up. Let us know what you think about that and the game as well. And I'll speak to you soon. Take care.